The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
And welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast NH. I'm Deborah Monk, empowering you to find your creative voice.
I'm Shelly Devlin, inspiring you to find your why.
And today we welcome back for the last time Barb Wallace.
Number 10.
Yes, which is a perfect ending. We're going to talk about our mistake number 10, which is weak endings.
Yes, this is where I say all good things have to come to an end.
Although during our shows, we did discover that we haven't discussed the mistake of not revising. So I'm going to use...
Well, that one's easy. Revise, people.
Oh, there you go.
Okay,
A freebie.
No tips for that. Just do it.
Just do it.
Here on the Writer's Block, we like to deliver more than we promised. So we told you you'd get 10. Well, number 11, it's a freebie for you. It's Revise people.
Revise people. Yeah.
All right. So today we're going to talk about weak endings. I love this. I love this.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes. What do you have to say about weak endings, Barb?
All right. Well, it goes without saying that we expect a book to be satisfying.
Yes.
And generally, when I started this, talking about this was in conjunction with a series I was writing for Romance Writers of America, and it was talking about contest results and why people didn't necessarily final in this national contest. And one of the things is they had a lousy ending. And as a reader, you remember the ending. No matter how good the book is, if the ending sucks, you have a bad impression of the book. Vice versa. If it's an amazing ending, then you forgive the errors at the beginning of the book. Like how many times have we read a book where we said, it took me about like 50, 60 pages before it got interesting, but then I couldn't put it down. Yes. Oh my God, the end was amazing.
And those are the books people like to tell you about.
Right.
They'll say, stick with it. You got to read through the first few chapters and then, you know, I've heard that about Game of Thrones. I've never watched Game of Thrones, and when I ask people if I should, that's what everybody says, is you have to get past the first few seasons because there are so many characters in the beginning, but that it's worth it.
And then when you get to the end, it's like, oh my God.
There's this great promise.
The other thing is, but then for those of who did watch Game of Thrones, the ending was a letdown for a lot of people.
I did hear that too.
I heard that.
Yeah,
and
which is what a shame to end a show like that with a bad ending. You wonder, how can that happen?
A better example is how many watched How I Met Your Mother. Did you watch that show?
No.
I have.
I mean,
when the show went off, they basically rewrote history in the last episode and made it something.
All a dream.
No, the mother was dead, and I'm not spoiling this. I hope people, but yeah, the mother was dead, and he tells the story, and they're like, oh, "You were really in love with Aunt Robin. You have to go see Aunt Robin." It's like, well, no. For 5 years, we've been watching Aunt Robin having romance with somebody else that you just ended because you wanted to have this ending.
Wow.
And it was
a bad ending.
It was a horrible ending. Horrible. And that happens often.
Don't you? And don't you wonder how, like a big show like that? I know that was quite a popular show. How does
they run out of money and they've got to finish the last season, and then that's
in this particular case, I heard it's because they'd filmed it when the kids were little, and then they didn't expect the show to go on for 8-9 years, and they couldn't get the kids anymore, so they had to use the ending they filmed when the kids were little because it's supposed to be the guy telling a story one night.
Right.
So that's probably and they originally started with him being in love with Aunt Robin. They hadn't expected this rest of the story to take over, and then so they were stuck like, oh, well, we got to use this now.
Well, they should have come to us here at the Writer's Block Podcast NH because I think we could have dealt with that and handled it well.
Right. So
feel free to call.
There you go. So that's one of the reasons you have it. Frequently, the writer is on deadline and has to get the book in, and they're rushed, and they have no time to really flesh it out. So they
spend all their time in
know
it
this
early.
well. You spend all your time on and suddenly it's like, oh my God, this book's due in a week. Bam. And then you've got revisions, but you're like, oh my God, the revisions are due in a week. Bam.
That is, yes.
And I read a book that was amazing, and she wrapped it up very quickly. And she put in the acknowledgments, sorry for the rushed ending. I was literally in labor at the end of the book.
Oh God.
So you're like, all right, I'll forgive you for this. Because usually she's a much better, the writer has created such a complicated plot that there is no way they can get out of it satisfactorily. Right. And when we say satisfactory, it doesn't mean happy.
Right.
It means emotionally satisfying. It can be sad. A person can die if it fits the story that you were creating.
Mm-hmm. What about with a memoir when your life keeps happening?
Oh, that's a great question.
Then the damn ending keeps changing.
Well, yes, but the story you're telling doesn't.
Go ahead.
Well, that's true. But there's pieces of the story that were happening. So there is a big piece of the story that the end hadn't actually come yet. Oh, see?
See, then this is where I'm going to say, even with a memoir,
Yeah.
you know your destination at the end. You should have an idea what your story is about. Your memoir is about something. You know, my journey to X, or my learning how to do X.
Yep.
And you're going to get to X.
Right.
So you want to wrap that book up at X. Your life may still be going on. I'm hoping your life is still going on when you
I
reach
guess
X.
X, Y, Z.
But this is, I
Okay.
finished at this point, and this is where I ended up, and these are the lessons I learned to get here.
Right.
You know,
And that's why where you start is very important, because that's going to impact where you want to end.
Well, I think I already knew where the ending was going to be, but the actual ending hadn't happened yet. Like, I knew what was going to happen in my life for that ending, but it actually hadn't happened yet.
That's Shelly the manifester.
okay.
Like, she knows when she says something's going to happen, she knows it's so real that she
All
can
right. Well, it's
plan.
but you can end it with, and now I'm here, and I am hopeful that this is going to happen because of this is the journey I took to get here.
Oh, it happened.
Yeah, she doesn't
So I just
hope.
had to keep rewriting.
Oh, well, there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But you should have a destination. It's all about the arc. I've said this, I think, like 1,000 times. Your character has a journey. You need to know the beginning. You really have to have some idea of the end. I mean, even if you're a pantser or you're writing a memoir that hasn't happened yet, you still have an idea of what
Right.
the theme of your book is, what you're trying, the journey that you want your characters to take,
Yes.
and where they're going to end up. Even if it's something vague as, well, I do know that they're going to solve the murder. I
Right.
do know they're going to be happy at the end. Or I do know that she's going to make her decision about leaving her husband or not. So
If you want, you kind of think of it like getting in the car. If you're going to get in the car and you know you want to end up in California, California's pretty big. You don't have to know specifically, am I going to San Francisco or San Diego? You know you're going to head west. But if you want to go to Buenos Aires, driving west isn't really going to get you there.
right.
Not quickly anyway.
And you want to be able to tie up as many loose ends as you can. Readers don't like cliffhangers. I mean, they do and they don't.
Even a good cliffhanger, it resolves whatever it promised you in the beginning.
Exactly.
It's just what a good cliffhanger does, which Shelley's going to do in hers, because she's going to be writing more than one, is it solves the journey of the first, but then it promises a second journey.
Exactly.
And so that's what a good cliffhanger
Very
is.
rare that you can have someone hanging on a hook for a cliffhanger.
Right.
Even like Harry Potter. You know that all 8 books he's chasing Voldemort.
Right.
And Voldemort is out there for every book. But the book itself tied up all the ends of the story
Of that particular
book.
story, right.
And I'm trying to think of another great cliffhanger that I'm hitting the mic, which Jonathan hates. I go back to, there was years ago, the first cliffhanger that I can recall in TV that really was successful
Dallas.
was Dallas. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
But they did wrapped up all the other storylines, and then it was 5 minutes of him walking out and getting shot.
And plus,
But
him
everything
getting
else was
shot
resolved.
hadn't happened throughout the whole book. So that was new information. It isn't like they started that with Who Shot JR and then they finished that season
And left you hanging,
still
like,
wondering who shot JR.
Exactly. They wrapped up all the other storylines.
Right.
I was going to go with also the Star Trek did one where he blew up Picard at the end of, gave the order to blow up Picard. He's on the Borg ship. But they solved everything else in the episode. And then they're like, but he's still there. Well, we're going to have to blow him up. You know, that's...
Well, as usual, I love doing examples. So I did an example of a week ending. So here's the beginning, just a little bit to set the story. So here's the first line of the book. I'm a good guy who is about to do a bad thing. I never thought I'd rob a bank. Even when I was little, playing cops and robbers, I was always the cop. That could be because the costume cop hat that we had fit my head and would fall right over my little brother's eyes. So to us, it just made sense. Sometimes life is as simple as wear the hat that fits you. Today, my little brother got fired from his job because of his heart condition, which means he lost his insurance, and after years of waiting, his name is next on the transplant list, which will cost more money than he or I will ever make, which is why today I wear the robber hat. So let's say now this whole book is going to be about this guy. Let's say the older brother's name is William, the younger brother's name is Duke, and the whole book is going to be about the guy trying to do the robbery, trying to get away and not get caught, and his brother getting the surgery. So how's this for an end? Duke dies, William goes to jail, the end.
Oh, you mean just for those 2 lines?
Yeah. Like if we followed that whole story, if we read the whole book, where
I would say you completely failed on your homework to write a bad
Barb,
ending.
tell her it
that's
sucks.
a bad ending.
Well,
Well,
it's a cop-out bad ending.
No,
That's
it's
my
a bad
point.
end. It's a bad ending if you write
No, this is my.
She's in a rush. Her deadline.
This is my example of a bad ending. I'm joking. That's a bad ending.
Who would do that?
All right, I'm just.
It would work if it couldn't be a satisfying ending. It could be the whole thing is about his journey in trying to do this. And at the end, he was doing the wrong thing. So he went to jail.
Okay, but don't try to make it good, because I did write a good ending. Okay, that's my bad ending.
Okay, I say that. I mean, yes, if your ending exactly said Duke dies, William goes to jail.
Yeah, the end.
The end. Yeah, that sucks. But if you have that happen in your book, it's possible
that could happen. Yes,
and that could be
in 2019. Are you even allowed to end a story with the end?
Well, you can do whatever you want.
You do write the end, at least when you're submitting it to your editor, so they know that that's the last page.
Well, and that was sort of for fun. But those 5 words, Duke dies, William goes to jail, 6 words, that's not a good ending. How about this for an ending? I always promised my brother that he would get a heart. I also promised him that I would be the first face he saw when he woke up. I kept one promise and had to break the other. With my picture plastered all over the news, I had to run to Mexico to hide out. You know the image of the robber escaping it all and living out his days with tequila and women? There's been none of that. I started a foundation, the Heart of a Duke, and families in the same situation as us are all reaching out to me. I got a lot of money from the bank, sure, but not enough, but nowhere near enough to give it to everyone. I've been getting letters every day from families in the same situation asking for money to save their loved ones. So I've been making life and death decisions. I sent money and helped save Peter's daughter, but I couldn't save Edith's mother, even though she begged me every day for 6 months. But she was 78 years old and had already had a good life, so I couldn't save everyone. But today I would find out if it was all worth it. For months, my mother has been telling me that Duke's recovery has been going well, but with her rose-colored glasses, the fact that he survived the surgery is enough for her. Today, I will see him with my own eyes. I watch all the passengers get off the plane until the very last man. He's walking slow, but he is walking and smiling. And then I'm hugging him, and we are both crying.
I'm not crying.
That's a better ending, right?
It is a better ending, although I would say...
Hang on, I have more.
She hasn't said the end yet.
I did say the end. I could end it there, and I think that would certainly be more satisfying than Duke dies, William goes to jail. So how about this? So I watch all the passengers get off the plane until the very last man. He's walking slow, but he is walking and smiling, and then we're both crying. And now that he's here, now that he can be the real heart of a Duke, I turn to the man beside me and allow him to handcuff me. Duke is the last face I will see before I am arrested.
Can we talk now?
Is there stunned silence because
I don't
it's
like
so
it.
good?
She didn't say the end again, so I didn't know that was the end.
I think you dragged it out too long. That would be my personal opinion. You took too long to get... I think that it was... I kept...
Could have told us a little bit more in there instead of doing all that showing.
Yes.
Pesky showing.
I had kept one promise. I had to break the other.
All right, well, we're not editing the whole thing. I was just working on the ending there.
But I mean, that leads to another point. There is
hold on.
Another example of weak ending is dragging the ending out too long.
Okay, so I gave 2 examples of bad endings. Let's pretend that's what I meant to do.
But I think that you would, how realistic, it depends. I mean, we're talking about an imaginary story with no middle. So,
right. But I love that instead of seeing both the brothers reunited, I loved, okay, yes, let's see them reunited. And then let's see the guy who I went back to the first line about, I'm a good guy who's going to do a bad thing, and now he's allowing himself to be arrested.
It is. Or you could do it as, clearly this is a fake story. I would have ended it quicker and had him, I kept one promise, I broke the other. But that's okay, because as long as Duke's out there living, I know that I did the right thing. So that
I don't like that either.
Okay, but I mean, I would have ended it quicker. I think you dragged your ending out too much.
I definitely did drag it out.
I like the second ending, but I think it was dragged out a little too.
Yes, I agree. But let me make sure. Oh, I forgot to give you your cue cards. Deb, you're fabulous. And you're supposed to say, Deb, you're the best writer ever.
I'm sorry, Deb, you're fabulous.
Okay,
Deb, you're the best writer ever.
All right, thanks. But actually, you're right. I did drag it out.
I think that's one of my points of rear end. Is just, you see this all the time with romance novels. They get together.
Lived happily ever after? Bullshit.
No.
I call bullshit.
No. They get together. They declare their love for one another.
They get naked.
And then they go to their neighbors and they tell them the good news. And then they go someplace else and they tell the good news. And they have a baby. And then they, it's like they just keep dragging it on with all these life events. It's like the point people wanted was they're happy.
And plus, the point people wanted is we've all been in that one point, but it's such a short pinnacle.
So you can
again, Deb, the writing, not real life.
You can end too soon.
Why does it always? Everyone has to look at me when she says something disparaging.
I don't know.
Sorry.
So you can end too soon, but you can also drag it out too long.
Right.
You can get too wordy.
Right.
Where you're, hammering home the message.
Deb, too wordy, hammering home the message? Never.
No. Now, I will be the first to admit I tend to write short and tight.
But that's a good thing.
Yes and no. I mean, some people can do it, but I do think that you can carry on the ending too long.
Right.
And dilute what you're trying, the power of it. And chances are, if you'd gone back and revised it, you would have said, okay, you know what, maybe I don't need this. I could pull up this.
Yeah, I just came up with an ending, bloody hell.
I understand. It's a fake book and a fake ending. But I'll give you a better example of a bad ending. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, Deb, your bad ending wasn't a good example.
Wait, my bad ending wasn't
Your bad
bad?
ending sucked.
Have either of you read The Lake House by Kate Morton?
No.
Okay.
I have it, though.
Is it good?
I do have it.
Oh, I'm about to spoil it for you then. I don't want to.
All right,
Okay,
good. Spoil it.
It's
Yeah,
in the
we're
list
busy.
of
We don't have
100
time to
books to
read.
read. So.
Fantastic book. It's about a baby that disappears from a house, and it changes everything in everyone's life. And it's talking about you're not sure who took care of the baby, if the baby's dead or if the baby was just kidnapped or whatever. And you go through the whole book flashing back between the current time and what happened in the 1930s when the baby was taken. And it goes back and forth, and you learn the father's secret, and you learn the mother's sort of secret. Then all of a sudden, it gets to the end where they find out, okay, this is what happened to the baby. And it's a great ending.
Okay.
She then goes on for like 3 more chapters, practically. Like another chapter with the baby is revealed to be the grown-up, someone who's tied to the story. And you're like, what the hell? How'd that come out? And he's like, oh, I remember this person now that you said it. And granted, there were clues dropped in, but it was so lame. And then there's another subplot about her and a baby that's grown up for adoption. And we flash forward and they're all together and they're happy. That's, to me, was a really weak ending that took away from what was an incredibly emotional book.
Wow.
So she tied up loose ends that didn't need to be tied up.
She made it a happy ending as opposed to a satisfying ending.
Interesting.
Okay.
She gave it a happy ending where everyone's happy and everyone's friends and everything had been solved. She could have done exactly the same thing and not have solved it. I mean, not have made it happy because it wasn't necessarily a situation where it could be.
I don't know that there really. I don't know that there really
the
is a happy ending.
The child
isn't dead. That's
isn't
a good
dead.
thing.
That's the happy ending, and you find out where he was. That he was raised someplace and why, and he was given a good home and all these things and why it happened. But
it doesn't take away the heartbreak and the changes that have happened in everybody's life because the baby went
exactly.
missing.
And then to suddenly make this character the long lost kid,
right?
So they could all be reunited and happy. I'm not sure that to me was a satisfying ending. She just made it really happy. And even with the subplot, they just had her all of a sudden tagged on. And I did talk to her and we
made up.
We became friends. It was a lot of stuff tagged on. And like I said, I'll go back again to make happy. You want satisfying. Does not necessarily mean it's got to be happy. A person can die. A person could end up alone in your book. But if it's a satisfying conclusion, I'm trying to think of
realistic.
It's got
to be real, somewhat real. I mean, even though we're writing fiction, you've got to know that you've set it up that in the story that is a possible ending, not just the ending that everybody wants to have.
Exactly.
Well, I think this is the perfect place to end our series. Barb, we can't thank you enough for doing this with us.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope somebody got a little help somewhere.
I know we did, so I can only imagine our listeners have as well.
Absolutely.
And so if you want to hear this episode again or share it with a friend, send them to the UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. That's UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. You can find this podcast and the vodcast, that's video on demand, in case you want to watch. Find this episode and all previous episodes on the UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv and please subscribe.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.